Hey everybody, I'm back. It's Paul Lemiski. I'm in the shop with Matt from Of Earth Furniture, and we're working on the Bali Chair. We're power carving, we're sanding, and we're going to create this crest rail. So I hope you enjoy the video. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're working on the seat slats. We just finished bandsawing out the curve of them. Matt did a great job on that. So we still have them rough and we've laid the seat out. Here's the steps of what we're going to do next. We're going to be creating a chamfer on the back edge of here. And to lay that out, I'll push this tight against this one. I'll center it because we're going to have a little bit of extra as you move because of the space. So I just center it on there, and we're going to trace. We're going to trace. We're going to trace. I like using a pen. Don't get mad at me. Trace that line there. Fantastic. Take your drawing bow. Adjustable drawing bow. Very simple. We're going to use it a few times while building this chair. Flip this up. Adjust the drawing bow so it matches that curve. Fantastic. Drop this down. Turn the bow around. And we're just going to line up to each corner and trace the same curve. So you'll have a line there to there. And we're going to use a cut saw carving wheel right here and an angle grinder. Fortunately, this one's battery, which is really nice. You don't have the cord. I do also like the paddle on this because it forces you to keep your hand here. As you see, we have the guards removed, so you got to be super, super careful with this. I recommend, if you're using the trigger one, to make a bracket that's a metal L right here that can stop your hand from going forward into it. Highly recommend that. This one here, because of the paddle, your hand has to stay here. Your other hand though, watch out. If you're going to be grinding away and you're going to feel your piece, the number one accident I've had with students, I think even myself I've touched the wheel, is that you go to you feel you're grinding and very quickly you bring your hand back to the grinder, instead missing your spot, and you graze your finger on the edge of the wheel. Not a good situation. So very slow movements, feel your piece, be very accurate where you're putting your hand, and then go back to work. This actually has braking in it also, so it does stop pretty quickly. So really you can probably do your grind, wait for it to stop, check things out, and then go back to it. So just be safe with this. As I said, we have the guard removed. If you feel more comfortable keeping the guard on, please keep the guard on. I'm not trying to push you into doing anything that's uncomfortable. So we're carving a nice chamfer here. We're going to be carving the back side of this pommel down. We're going to give a nice rounded edge right here. Zing, 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 zing. Just like that. It's going to sound just like that. And then with our very front one, we're going to give a round over on the front edge. And you can see we actually have the dominoes in this one. So it's going to allow me to clamp this down to the workbench with the dominoes, and we're going to be able to sand. So Matt and I will be also doing the sanding, but I'll be taking care of the power carving. So let's get to that now. So you can see the chamfer that I'm doing. I'm following the line nicely. I don't like to finish one spot. I always like to bring it down evenly. Now the way I've clamped this, I'm actually a little too close to my workbench, so I'm going to swing this around here. There we go. That's going to be a bit better. So if we look at the wheel here, very flat side. That's what I'm keeping registered on there. I'm not using the actual edge of this wheel. I'm not kind of like poking at it like that. I'm using that flat spot and just kind of regulating the amount of pressure and speed and kind of making a cat eye is what I call this. All right, let's finish it off. Okay, so that was the chamfer done very simply on the back piece. Now the furthest back pommel on the back edge here, we're going to round this over. I don't really have any lines to tell you about, but we're going to get some nice footage of this so you'll see what we're trying to do. Now obviously let's make sure we're doing this correctly. So we have a nice sap line lining up, our angles like that. So I'm going to bring this around and I'm working on the back side of this pommel. And you'll find quick clamps work really, really well if you're ever grinding like this. If you hopefully you buy these plans and you build this chair, yeah. You always need to use 2 quick clamps. If you just put 1 on here, it's going to vibrate loose. Always have 2 on there and make them nice and tight. You really want to have your piece secured. If it starts moving on you, definitely take the time, stop grinding, tighten these back down, because you just don't want your piece flying off and creating a big divot. So we're going to get to this front now. Okay, so I always like to say too that this is going to take off, 90% of the wood. You're still going to be shaping with the sander. I'm going to take this thing off. I probably look a little fugly right now. And there's also no harm in using a hand rasp right now. I'm going to go grab one. I've got 2 main rasps I use, a much wider Aurora type Aurora, I think, makes this rasp, available from Lee Valley. And this is a Nicholson rasp, much skinnier. They have a slightly rounded side and a flat side. So I'm trying to make basically a bit of a concave curve from about halfway that's coming back. So, and really we're just going to use this to clean this up, and we're going to get it that much closer to where we want to be. Back of the pommel done, and now let's deal with the front of the seat. We're going to have a nice round over on this. Again, we don't have a template or anything like that, so you're kind of free to do whatever you'd like here. Again, you can go right from a hand rasp. It's just going to be more work. I like using the power grinder, getting me 80–90% of the way there. Oh, and this one we have the dominoes in too, so we can clamp like that. Ooh, nice. Like that. Nice. Okay. So let's get our grind on. All right, we can breathe again. I'm holding my breath the whole time. No. I've been called a surgeon with this tool. I have hundreds of hours of this in my hand, so you want to also use it in a way that you feel comfortable with. You don't have to take it as far as I do with this tool, but you will find once you do this a few times, you carve a few seats, you make a couple Bali chairs, you're going to get very competent with this tool and you're going to really enjoy it. Now, you saw me step back, and while I'm carving, and I get, you do the one side and you got to be happy with it. You got to do your second side, and you got to match that first side. So that's why I step back and I kind of analyze both sides, see if I need to do a little here, do a little there. You can see a nice line too that I have going down. You can see I didn't carve all the way down to this straight edge. This gives me a nice visual line that I can follow, and it really shows me how my carving's going. And I can compare both sides, so you're trying to just mimic both sides. Other things to keep in mind is that this is sapwood on this one, so this sap is actually very soft, so the material does go away pretty quickly. So be careful with that, depending what material you're using. Also, the wheel, again, flat side, the flat is registering, and you can see on the left side curves, I'm traveling up as I'm shaping, always kind of blending. And then on this right hand, I'm actually traveling down the curves, again, blending. When I come across here to here, I kind of like to go about 60%, 70%, and then as I come back the other side, I'm going to go that 60, 70% overlap in the center. And then the tough part, try and mimic this side to that side. Again, climbing up on the left side while using this tool, and then climbing down on the right-hand side using this tool. From here, this is where the larger rasp is nice. Use that flat side, and we can really you get in here, you can start using the so you can really refine that edge very quickly. We can go from a relatively rough grinder with the cut-saw wheel to a pretty darn smooth with the hand rasp, and then if you do a good job on both of these steps, the sanding's just erasing your grinding marks pretty much. So it becomes very pleasurable. Each step is enjoyable because you're not sweating and cursing basically, trying to take off all the wood with this. You do this for most of the material, clean it up with the rasp, and then clean it up with your sander. Hope you guys enjoy this part of the chair. It gives you a little glimpse into power carving. If you do get the templates from my other chairs, you'll have a lot more power carving to do. Let's sand. So this here is going to give you a great example of sanded to 120 grit, and then the carving with either the hand rasp or the angle grinder. So you can see I stayed just away from the lines there, and then when I do the sanding, I clean up just to the line. I'm going to go 120, 220 and be done with it. Now, when we made our cut, you can see Matt stayed shy of the edge, which is what we want, because now we're going to be blending this in to this curve with the sander. Fortunately, we have this wonderful vacuum clamp from Festool, and it looks like our seat pieces are just wide enough to fit. Barely fits. Don't have to have a sander like this, but it certainly helps out. It has a dual action mode. It's very aggressive. And we're not filming for network TV anymore, eh? So we can show off what it is. They made me cover that up. So it's a Festool RO150. I've been using these sander since 2011. Yeah, so a long time, 9 years, I suppose. Not this exact one, but I have a few of them. Thank you, Festool. Very aggressive, as I said. Key to this tool is keep it flat, and you're still shaping at this point. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I like to do is sand down these curves. I'm going to work in the spot that I need to shape, and I'm going to start coming down the curve, while going back to where I sanded and kind of blending it that way. And when I get to about 60–70%, I'm going to then come back this side and overlap in the center. I'm in my dual action mode. I got 120 grit paper on this. We're then going to take it up to 220, and then we're done sanding. We break our edges and it's ready for glue up, this piece right here. Fantastic. Let's do it. So you can see how I've blended that extra material in. This is it before sanding versus the nicely blended area now, and I feel it like this. I don't feel any lumps or bumps. And this is totally smooth, so I'm going to work my way down this way with the sander, come back a little bit, blend it, work my way a little bit farther. Now what you want to remember is the spots that are sandy, I guess so, the spots that get sanded first are actually the high spots, and then your bandsaw marks that are left after your initial pass is the low spot. So you're actually sanding down all the spots that first get sanded, the high spots, down to those bandsaw marks. We're not just trying to take out those bandsaw marks. We want to have this nice and smooth because our buttocks is gonna love it. Sweet, that feels fantastic. And like I said, we're going to take this up to 220 grit and be done with it. All right. We're onto the Crest rail. Our chair is put together. The seat slats are in there, fully sanded, not glued up yet, just dry fit. Crest rail, here she is. And here's our blank. Let's double check what we're at. We are at about 19 inches long, so that's our rough length, about 5 inches wide. Now your thickness of this blank is going to be needed to be the width right here. On our chair, it ended up at just under 2 inches, 1 15/16. So double check your measurement there. That's going to be your thickness of your blank. Very easily, I just marked a center line at 2.5 inches. So I got a center line between here and here. And then I marked 17.5 inches centered on this blank. Why did I mark that? We're going to take our angle finder doohickey. Yeah, I know it has a name. This is the jig that we're going to use. This is what we use to cut the seat slats. We just set it to that same angle. Fantastic. Now from the side facing me, we're going to intersect that 17.5 measurement with our center line with this angle, and we're going to give it a trace. We're going to roll over the angle finder doohickey and match the same one on this side. Beautiful. So this will fit in to our leg and give us a little bit of play because this is wider than the piece we actually need. And we're also going to have to cut a 45-degree angle on it at the same time to fit that. So we're going to take care of that now. So you can see we have our sled. Our blade is set to 45 degrees. This is the jig that's included in the plans. And we have our blank. Now Matt drew the angle here, drew the angle over there, roll it over. He's got the angle here, angle there. And on both faces, he also has the direction, not necessarily exactly 45 degrees, but the direction of where the blade's going to go. And he also carried this straight line down. So very visually, we can lay this up because this can roll, this can go end for end, this jig can spin around. We really want to make sure we're cutting this correctly when we do this operation. Roll it. Roll. Yep. The jig too. end for end. No, you're okay on that piece. Yep, I think. What do you think? That's scary. Huh? That's scary. All right, that does seem like a scary cut at the table saw because we got that compound angle going on. We got the jig with the sled, and then we got the blade at the 45. But it does give you a little bit of wiggle room, so if you're not fully accurate, this is going to move a little bit back and forth to line up where you want to line up. Now, we already have our center line marked on this piece. If we cut everything right where it's supposed to be, we're going to be able to use this center line, lay out a little center mark on the leg, and we can place this right down on that. Do the same on the other side, and lickety split, she should be fantastic, and it is great. So whatever the outside edge measurements of this is, yours might be a little bit different than ours. We just marked it, did the same on the other side, boom, boom. Come back, included with the templates, we have a radius. This is a 29.5-inch radius, and from there, we're gonna line it up to the two front marks. Trace the line. Line it up to the pack marks. Trace the line. Now we have our two cuts. The trick is, this is not a 90-degree cut on the bandsaw. We're actually going to set our bandsaw table at 22.5 degrees, and then we're going to cut these lines. Do be careful on which way you're going to enter because of the angle of the table. Very important. We're recording. Okay, that was a little nerve-wracking. Watch Matt cut that. We actually scratched our heads a little bit figuring the angle out, but we got it 22.5 degrees. And we can see it fits on super nicely, that it lines up with that front face. Ooh, baby. So now, of course, we have a end grain to end grain joint at this 45-degree cut. So we're going to need to reinforce that. That's up to you how you're going to do it. We're going to do it with a floating tenon using the domino. Dowels also work no problem. I would drill this out, put a dowel center in there, mark your spot, drill that side. I bet you I could actually do that faster than the domino, just because I don't actually use the domino all the time. But let's get on with it. All right, so Matt did a fantastic job. The Crest rail is fully fabricated. Now what we're going to do is we get it into the chair. We want to mark a center line on it vertically, and then we're going to mark 7/16 of an inch down on that line. We're then going to take our drawing bow again, adjust it to a fairly aggressive curve, as you can see. And what we want to do is actually put it to each corner. Now this is where if you hold it out like this, it's going to be hard to trace, but you actually want to bend it right in like so, and then you can trace that line. So that's going to be the top side of our chamfer that we're going to create. We're going to take this out of the chair now and then draw another one on the bottom side and get carving. All right, so we're just going to carry over this center line right across the face and then across the bottom edge. Just like that. Now, same idea, we don't want to carve right to the back of it. We're also going to have back brace holes in here. So the question is, where do we want to end up? That is the question. That's 3/4 of an inch back. I'm going to mark that on our center line. And again, we're going to take that drawing bow, adjust it. You're going to see it will definitely be a different curve than, oh, I'm actually pretty close. It'll be a little bit less. So it's very convenient that you can, if I could operate this device accurately, correctly. There we go. Let's try that. Put it around. Line it up to the front point again. Oh, look at that. Whammy. Pretty good. Oh, one-handed is not the easiest thing in the world. Pretty happy with that though. So we're going to carve the chamfer back to that line and carve it back to this line as well. Cool, so just like before, we're using angle grinder. It's got the cut saw wheel. This is the very coarse wheel. They also have a coarse wheel. Original coating, and it's also their flat wheel. So there's a few things to remember there. Original coating, flat wheel, and you can use either the coarse or the very coarse. Probably if you're starting out, the coarse would be a good one to use. I have both in my arsenal, depending how I'm feeling. So we're going to go ahead, get our carve on right now. Now the way I like doing this is not necessarily attacking one spot and getting right to that line. I like to come across, adjust my pressure, maybe I'm a bit slower, I push a little bit harder in the center, and then I do the opposite as I come up. Now obviously this wheel's spinning, so it's going to go do different things when it's coming up the edge versus down the edge. So I noticed when I came over here, it was actually very aggressive and I got a good amount of tear out coming down this bottom edge, so I need to be a little bit more careful with the wheel. With the wheel, basically. You got to be a little more careful. So you really got to pay attention to what this thing's doing while carving. I'm actually going to switch to the coarse wheel. That way it's going to hopefully minimize that grain tear out. Here we go. So we can see the two different wheels. You can kind of see how this is definitely coarser than this one. So you can actually really see the finer scratch pattern from the coarse wheel to the very coarse wheel. Okay, very happy with that. Let's take it back to the chair and see what we've actually done. Get this in here again. There you go. Drop it in there. So you can see how we've kind of created this vertical edge. That way, when we actually sit in the chair, let me just take a little relaxing break here and lean back, and we're sitting nicely comforted with the back supports. There's not going to be a sharp edge up there. It actually is going to fit our back really nice. I think it's going to work out great. All right, awesome. So that was a lot of work in this video. This ends the major fabrication part of this chair. In the next video, we're going to dedicate to the bent laminated back supports, from slicing up the layers, gluing them up on the form, and then taking them from the form to the finished state, which is a lot of work actually. So that'll be a whole video just on these bent laminated back supports. As always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. And don't forget, we are selling the templates to build this chair, which comes with a how-to manual. So you follow along this video with our templates, you can build this chair. That's awesome. We have a digital version. We have a paper version that we'll mail to you. We have a laser cut plywood version, and we even have a special edition laser cut plywood version. So check that out. Pre-order right now, 50% off any style of template that you purchase. In the notes below, we have the discount code. It goes to our online store. So it is a pre-order in about 2 to 3 weeks. We hope to be releasing these templates. Smash that like button, guys and gals. Share this video. As always, make it a great one.